When a Curtiss P-40 flashed over a jungle runway with big teeth painted on its nose, it didn't just look scary. It sent a message. That painted maw became one of the most recognizable images of World War II aviation. But why did P-40s wear shark mouths? Was it bravado, camouflage, or some clever trick? Stay with me. This is the real story, the practical, tactical, and surprisingly human, of how a paint job turned a fighter into a legend. Start with the shape. The P-40's blunt, high-drag nose had a broad cowl and a big spinner. A face, in other words. That silhouette naturally suggested a mouth. When crews had a scrap of time and a can of paint, turning that face into a snarl was an easy way to give an aircraft personality. But it was more than art for art's sake. The nose profile and the cowling lines made the P-40 unusually well suited to a mouth motif. The shape held paint well, didn't hide vital panels, and didn't interfere with radiator openings or guns. Practically speaking, it was a convenient canvas. The story of the shark mouth starts before the Flying Tigers made it famous. In early 1941, RAF No. 112 Squadron, operating P-40 Tomahawks in the North African desert, painted mouths on their machines. The motif worked on two levels. First, it was unit identity. Squadrons have always used markings to build cohesion and pride. A painted mouth made a plain metal or camouflaged fighter instantly recognizable on the ground and in the air. Second, it was psychological. Pilots and ground crews believed that an aggressive-looking fighter intimidated the enemy and boosted their own morale. In the brutal, dusty business of desert air war, morale was a force multiplier. Across the globe in China, the American volunteer group, the famous Flying Tigers, led by Claire Chennault, adopted and perfected the look. Their P-40s, painted with bold shark mouths and dramatic eye stripes, exploded into photographs and newsreels, and the imagery stuck in the public mind. The AVG didn't invent the idea, but they amplified it. Their mouths were painted larger, with bright teeth and fierce eyes, and their P-40 profiles against the sky were impossible to ignore. For Japanese pilots encountering these fighters for the first time, the visual shock mattered. The impression of aggression and toughness reinforced the reality of performance. So what practical benefits did the shark mouth give in combat? There are three worth keeping in mind. First, morale and intimidation. Combat is as much psychological as physical. Seeing a formation of fighters with snarling mouths primed pilots and ground crews for aggression. It built unit pride and a warrior identity. Pilots often report that paint and insignia change how men fly, more confidently, more together. In dogfights, a confident pilot makes fewer mistakes. Second, recognition and identification. In chaotic air battles, quick ID matters. A distinctive nose pattern helped friendly pilots, anti-aircraft crews, and controllers pick out machines on the deck and in the air. That reduced the risk of accidental engagement and sped up tasking and scramble procedures. It's a small tactical advantage, but in the fog of war, seconds count. Third, survivability and repairability. The P-40's rugged construction and emphasis on armor and self-sealing tanks worked hand in hand with a paint scheme that often covered battle-damaged scars. Crews could quickly touch up a shark mouth in the field between sorties. A battered machine that still wore its grin looked like it could keep fighting. The mouth became a badge of endurance. Come back with holes, fix the paint, and fly again. Beyond practicality, there's the story of adaptation. The P-40 began life as a development of earlier American designs, and early Wildcats and Tomahawks were not considered top fighters. But designers and tacticians learned fast. Instead of trying to copy the Zero's agility, Americans exploited power, protection, and firepower. The shark-toothed P-40 visually telegraphed that shift. It wasn't pretty, it was durable, it hit hard, and it survived punishment. The paint was a shorthand for a new fighting doctrine: hit hard, break off, and survive the return fire. There are myths too, and it's worth clearing them up. Some accounts claim the shark mouth began with German or other units. There are precedents for animal teeth or mouths on aircraft in several air arms. The important point is not who painted the first tooth, but why the P-40 carried it so effectively. The AVG's publicity, American industrial output, and battlefield results cemented the image. The mouth became a global brand for a machine that actually delivered where it counted. Missions completed, pilots returned, enemy aircraft downed. The visual language of the shark mouth also evolved. Early mouths were simple: a row of crude teeth and maybe a tongue. Later versions added eyes, gills, more realistic teeth, shading, and outline. Ground crews became artists. In many squadrons, the pilot's name or kill tally would be painted into the artwork, a personal signature inside the unit identity. Touch-ups between sorties, repainting after repairs, and custom variations turned the mouth into a living emblem of squadron culture. Finally, the legacy: why the image still matters. We remember the P-40 with teeth because it combines three things that storytellers love: a distinctive look, dramatic success against expectations, and a clear narrative. The underdog turned predator. The shark mouth is an icon because it sits at the intersection of design, psychology, and history. It tells you immediately what that fighter was for: to be tough, to intimidate, to survive. And it does so in a single, unmistakable image. So next time you see a P-40 with teeth in a museum or a photo, don't write it off as decoration. It's a compact history lesson. It tells you about the aircraft's shape and purpose, about unit identity and morale, about tactical innovation and industrial response, and about the human need to mark and personalize instruments of war. The grin painted on a P-40 is less a stunt and more a strategic statement. This machine was designed to bite back.